There was no war, no threats, no sanctions, just empty skies. From Tampa to Buffalo, terminals built for the world now echo like forgotten train stations. Gates locked, customs halls dark, departure boards frozen on flights that no longer exist, and no one said a word. Airlines that once begged for space in American airspace, Air Canada, Lufthansa, even the low-cost carriers, are pulling out one by one. No protest, no farewell, just a quiet erasure of routes that took years to build. Air Canada alone has slashed more than 320,000 seats on U.S. routes this year. That's not a cutback, that's a retreat. And here's the twist no one wants to say out loud. No one forced them to leave. They just decided America isn't worth landing in anymore. Not because of bombs, but because the math broke. The trust broke. What do you call a country the world no longer arrives in? Ghost terminals aren't the problem. They're the symptom. But here's what really happened. It didn't start with a protest. It started with a spreadsheet. In 2025, a sweeping tariff package hit the aviation sector. Hard. 25% on parts from Canada and Mexico. 20 on Chinese gear, 10 on everyone else. Everything airlines need, from carbon brakes to cockpit screens, got more expensive overnight. And while lawmakers pitched it as economic protection, airline CFOs did the math. Routes stopped making sense. Margins evaporated. So they started pulling out. Air France quietly cut routes from smaller U.S. cities. Lufthansa rerouted wide bodies to Delhi and Seoul. United announced 36,000 job cuts, nearly half its U.S. workforce. This wasn't a boycott. It was triage. When you burn fuel on routes that no longer return profit, you stop flying them. But here's where it spreads. Airport cafes in Tampa lost the morning rush. Taxi queues in Buffalo shrank. Luggage handlers in mid-sized terminals clocked out for the last time. The tariffs didn't just raise prices, they tipped a fragile system into retreat. And while officials still blame foreign policy headwinds or soft demand, the truth is simpler and harder to fix. The collapse wasn't forced from abroad. It was calculated right here at home. And that's where the damage truly began. In Buffalo, the airport used to hum at sunrise. Families heading to Florida, Canadians crossing over for long weekends. Now that hum is a whisper. In 2024, the city lost its last international route. No announcement, no replacement, just a vanished connection to the world. The impact? It shows up everywhere and nowhere. Hotel lobbies are quieter. Airport shuttles run half empty. One cab driver said, "I used to get 5 runs a day from the airport, now I'm lucky to get 2. Tampa, too, is hurting. After spending millions on tourism campaigns to attract European sun-seekers, its gates now sit idle. Restaurants that once thrived on foot traffic from overseas flights report bookings cut in half. The economic logic that once justified terminal expansions, gone. Nationwide, the U.S. Travel Association estimates an $8.5 billion loss tied directly to disappearing tourism. But here's the part no one puts on a chart. Those flights weren't just about tourism dollars. They were symbols, signals, proof that a city mattered on the map. Because when international planes stop coming, investors hesitate, events relocate, students look elsewhere. The momentum breaks, and for cities like Buffalo or Tampa, places that already sit just outside the spotlight, that kind of break doesn't come with a quick recovery. This isn't just a dip in travel, it's a wound to identity. But while these cities fade quietly, others are rising, and fast. At first, it looked like a shift in schedules. A few route changes here, a trimmed destination there. But when Turkish Airlines launched more weekly flights to Mumbai and Jakarta than to New York, the message became harder to ignore. They weren't just adjusting, they were leaving. Not out of anger, not out of protest, just out of calculation. In 2025, Emirates added over 50 new weekly flights across Southeast Asia. None of them go to the U.S. China Southern and China Eastern are now investing in new offices across Africa. Airlines, once obsessed with U.S. access, are now looking to BRICS-aligned economies, places where growth is faster, policies are simpler, and demand is rising. These aren't short-term pivots, they're long-term commitments. New routes, new terminals, new alliances, designed without a single U.S. city in mind. And that's the twist. They're not avoiding America because they're angry. They're just not building around us anymore. It's not sabotage, it's substitution. While U.S. airports argue over budget cuts and staffing shortages, places like Istanbul and Singapore are expanding to meet global demand and winning. Airlines are planting their future in places where the ground still feels stable. And America, it's becoming less central by the season. But if the planes are skipping us, what else is starting to pass us by? Stewart Airport didn't make headlines. No front-page farewell. No ribbon cutting for its last departure. Just one final flight to Iceland, gone. And with it, the lights dimmed in an entire wing. The customs booths emptied. Hundreds of jobs slipped away quietly. This isn't about a single airport, it's a mirror. Because when international flights vanish, they don't just take travelers with them. They take presence. Fewer planes mean fewer business deals signed face-to-face. Fewer academic exchanges. Fewer global eyes turning toward American cities. In diplomacy, in commerce, in culture, visibility matters. And right now, America is becoming harder to see. Singapore is expanding transfer hubs. Istanbul is building bridges between continents. And while they invest in connection, U.S. airports sit underutilized. Or worse, forgotten. It's not just infrastructure decay, it's reputational erosion. Because the fewer times the world lands in your cities, the fewer times it thinks to. You don't lose relevance all at once. You lose it flight by flight, until your runways go quiet and your calendars go blank. We used to be the place where everything touched down. Now, we're the place global routes quietly skip. And if the landings stop, the attention does too. Because in the global economy, what doesn't arrive eventually disappears. There was no border closing, no speech from a podium, no moment when someone said, "It's over." It just faded. The planes stopped landing. The itineraries changed. The world found other places to meet, to build, to dream. And America, once the layover of history, the arrival gate of ambition, became a little harder to reach. Not because of oceans, but because of decisions. This wasn't a punishment. It was a rebalancing, a quiet choosing of somewhere else. And what we lost wasn't just traffic or tourism or dollars. We lost continuity, the subtle rhythm of being seen, visited, invited, gone. Now, conferences convene without us. Partnerships begin without us. Connections deepen elsewhere. And in a world that moves at the speed of presence, absence isn't just noticed, it's replaced. So maybe the question isn't, how did this happen? Maybe the better question is, if the world no longer lands here, what part of us will ever take off again?